Good afternoon. Before we begin, can you please sign into this PD? There is a link in the chat box. There's a link in the chat box for you to sign in to this session. All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk About Small Group Reading Instruction. My name is Asia Abrams, and I am an innovative educator dedicated to creating lifelong learners through whole child approaches. I attended Alabama A&M University for undergrad. I'm a CEO of Abrams Holistic and Abrams Academics. I'm a proud mother of 3. I currently serve as a MTSSR coach for the district. Throughout my career, I have taught in grades kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 6th grade. This experience gave me great perspective on childhood development through various pivotal grade levels. I serve as a Montgomery Chamber of Commerce ambassador, and in this role, I collaborate with parents and stakeholders to support educational achievement. But enough about me. Let's look at our agenda. Today, we are going to talk about why small group instruction is important. And then we're going to talk about how we can set up our rooms for small group success. We're going to start with an icebreaker. What can you do today that you were not capable of doing a year ago? You can state your name and share out, or you can write your comment in the chat box. What can you do today that you were not capable of doing a year ago? And if you are just joining us, please sign in. There is a link in the chat box. Okay, we're going to give everybody a moment. Write your in the chat box, or you can share out. All right, taking time for myself. That's a good one. Adjust to moving from teaching college back to teaching high school. That is awesome. Anyone else? What can you do today that you were not capable of doing a year ago? Balancing being a mom and working. Oh, new mom, you're going to make it. It is definitely a journey, balancing everything. You guys can keep writing your comments in the chat. Resting more, having more time for me. Yes, self-care is definitely a skill. I'm going to share something with you guys that I wasn't capable of doing a year ago that I am capable of doing now. Making the best tacos. 7 hours number. Oh, that's good. I start off with a hard shell that provides security. You know, a safe and structured environment. Then I add in the meat. I make sure I use quality instruction. Quality shredded skirt steak. After providing the basics, I like to jazz up the taco by adding differentiated vegetables. Finally, I like to top it off with an aged, research-based resource that never fails: cheese. One day, it dawned on me. I approached making tacos the same way I approach providing small group instruction. Thus creating the TACO small group instruction rotation. Today, I will share this method with you. Today, by the end of this presentation, you will relate the word taco to small group. Before we start, true or false, small group instruction isn't required daily. Small group instruction is used only when needed. And you can write your answer in the chat box, true or false. False, false, false. Okay. Oh, we are on one accord here. False. Small group instruction should take place daily. All students will not respond to whole group instruction proficiently. It is important to provide differentiated instruction that meets the needs of all learning styles daily. When we look at this, we want to remember our RTI triangle. We want to make sure that about 80% of our students are mastering the skills that we are teaching, and we have to meet them where they are sometimes to get them to that point. So why small group? Small group instruction is differentiated tier 1 instruction. According to the Alabama MTSS, we should provide tier 1 instruction daily. So if we are required to provide tier 1 instruction daily, that means that small groups should be occurring daily as well, because we are differentiating our whole group instruction. Small group instruction allows us to reach students where they are. We can teach skills and strategies they may have previously missed in small group instruction. So let's talk about it. Just like the components to a perfect taco, there are components that make up effective small group instruction. Small group instruction should be targeted, adaptable, curriculum-based, and operational. This type of instruction is different from whole group instruction. Whole group instruction is targeted to the whole class. Because of this, it is not adaptable to each student. Whole group and small group should operate differently and occur daily. Let's talk about the T in TACO. The T in TACO stands for targeted. Small groups allow for teachers to target each individual student or group of students that have similar learning needs. Teachers should group students based off of student data. Lessons for small group should target each group's need. All groups should not receive the same small group instruction lessons. Let's do a targeting activity. When looking at Star Renaissance data, Ms. Hall notices that 5 of her second grade students have not benchmarked in phoneme segmentation. She notices that they share common focus skills on their instructional planning report. Some of the skills include distinguish sounds and phonemes, name letters and recognize upper and lowercase forms, decode and manipulate CVC words. That means that they can blend when we see that word decode. She wants to design a small group activity that addresses these areas. In a group, discuss activities that will meet the needs of students placed in this group. So today we are going to use the link below, and we are going to find phonemic awareness activities that are on and below this grade level that may be something that she can pull in to her small group table. I'm going to put a link inside the chat box. And we're going to exit out of there. One moment. All right, I'm going to hit everyone. I'm going to scroll up. In the chat is the very first thing I posted. Here we go. copy and paste. And now you guys are going to be able to go to this link. And I'm also going to go to this link as well on my screen for those of you that may not be able to do that right now. All right, the link is posted. All right, this is the Florida Center for Reading Research. Many of you may have seen this website before. And when you go to the top of this screen, it has student-centered activities. They have pre-K all the way to 4th and 5th grade. And the best part about this website is that when you click on a grade level, it pulls up the big 5 ideas of reading. So I can find activities in each one of these areas: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. So take a moment to find 1 or 2 activities that you think Ms. Hall can use with her 2nd grade students to help them benchmark in phoneme segmentation. This website is also a great place to find activities that you can share with parents during literacy nights, and even links that you could probably send through Class Dojo or whatnot for parents to print out and do at home. Some of these activities require just household items. So we're going to take a moment and we are going to do that. And I am going to give you guys, honestly, about 4 minutes. 3 minutes.
You want us to type it in the chat box?
Yes, you can type the name of the activity or you can put the link in the chat box.
Okay.
And we're going to take about 3 minutes to do that. All right, if you have just joined us, we are looking at the link in the chat box, and we are finding some activities to support a 2nd grade classroom that is struggling in phoneme segmentation. Be sure to find activities that only involve manipulating sounds, as phonemic awareness deals with manipulating sounds and not looking at the graphemes or the letters. After you find activity, feel free to look in the other domains of the big 5 ideas of reading. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. If you have students who have not benchmarked in phoneme segmentation or their CBMs, feel free to copy some of these links from the chat box and save them possibly on a Google Docs. That's probably where I should have put this. All right, we have about 50 seconds. A break make, okay. Sound changes, okay. All We have about 10 seconds. All right, we're making our way back into the Zoom. Awesome, and we are back. You guys have found tons of activities. And we just want to be very intentional when we provide small group instruction. We want to make sure that we are looking at our student data and we are finding activities that meet the needs of those students. A, part of TACO. I'm going to make this bigger. A stands for adaptive. What word comes to mind when you think of adaptive learning? Write them in the chat. When you hear the word adaptive, what do you think about? Differentiated, changes, different activities by levels, changing based on needs, learning that adjusts to a student level as they progress or slide back, connection. Awesome words. Adaptive learning is the delivery of custom learning experiences that address the unique needs of an individual through just-in-time feedback, pathways, and resources, rather than providing a one-size-fits-all learning experience. We want to make sure that our small group rotations include learning that meets each student at their zone of proximal development. We want to reach their ZPD level. We want to meet them where they are to take them further. So we want to make sure that we have activities that meet those needs in our daily rotations. I love how you guys wrote flexible and customized to modify, adjust learning based on needs. That's exactly what adaptive learning is. And lucky for us, we have a few resources just embedded in our district that provide adaptive learning experiences for our students. And we will talk about those as well. When we think about adaptive learning, this photo comes back to mind. Equality versus equity. Equality is when we give people the same thing. We've provided an activity for all students, but it wasn't fair in every situation because some activities may need to meet each student where they are. We may need to provide different resources that will lift up each individual high enough to reach over to see over the fence. Remember, with adaptive activities, small group instruction should be adaptive. That means that there is opportunities for students to engage in lessons that are strictly on their zone of proximal development. Ways to address this need is to incorporate adaptive learning daily rotations, use applications with adaptive learning software, and assign independent work that is on each child's level. Some of our adaptive learning programs would include Freckle, Myon, Ingenuity. All of those resources connect to their screening assessments, and it gives them activities that meet them where they are. We also have some schools that use Amira. That's also an intervention-based system that meets students exactly where they are, and it just adapts the pathway to meet each student's needs. Let's talk about the C in TACO, curriculum-based. Small group instruction should support whole group instruction. It is designed to close the gap between what is achieved and not achieved on curriculum-based assessments. Students who score under 70% on a curriculum-based assignment indicate a disconnect to the whole group instruction for that skill or standard. Here's an activity. What are some reasons students make under 70% accuracy on an assignment? List your thoughts in the chat. Why would a student make under 70% on an assignment? List your thoughts in the chat. Not enough time. Small group did not meet the needs of the student. Misinterpretations. They didn't understand the assignment. may not fully grasp the skill or concept, absent, not understanding, they didn't grasp the skill or standard, it's on grade level and they are not, okay. And now that we have identified some of these reasons, what can we do to bridge that gap? One thing we can do is to take activities into small group that are curriculum based. We can provide them with activities that reteach the skills that they may not have mastered throughout the week, just to give them more support and more time, maybe because they were absent or maybe because they are, below grade level. But if we meet them again with that skill in a small group setting, they're able to possibly master that skill with just more time and teaching in a differentiated way. And that just means we're meeting their learning style. Some students are auditory, some are hands-on, some are visual. So we want to make sure that our small group rotations contain things that reach each type of learning style as well. And our last word is operational. Now that we see what type of activities are needed in small group instruction, we will talk about how to incorporate them in a rotation. Rotations allow teachers to meet with all students and provide them with differentiated activities daily. Before we go in this part, so the T is for targeted, the A is for adaptive, the C is for curriculum based, and O is for operational. This is a simplified small group rotation chart. It's important to have a rotation chart visible in your classroom because students should know what groups they're in and where they go without us having to kind of tell them where they go. Many times without a rotation chart, or if we don't incorporate a rotation chart, we end up telling students, you three go over there to that center, you two go over there, you three go to my back table, who's missing, who's next? And it just puts so much work on us to separate and sort students. So having a rotation chart provides structure in your classroom to where they know where to go. It's up to them to be where they are. Their peers are going to monitor who's in the group, who's not in the group. And it just provides that accountability piece and that structure that we need in small groups. So this is your behavior management foundational piece, is to start with a small group rotation chart that is visible for everyone to see. In a simple rotation, you may start off with 3 groups. You can name those groups whatever you would like. And maybe 3 centers. One center is your table, your kidney table. One center may be a game table where they may do word work, skill work. They may go to that table and log into McGraw-Hill and play their open court games. Another rotation could be writing. It could be an activity that they do with their seed. It could be vocabulary matching. The options to put in these rotations are endless, but you want to start off with your groups identified. And if you want to start small, at least 3 different types of centers. It could be any 3 things, but one of those centers must be your kidney table. So if we were to get a little bit advanced, because we got 24 students in our classroom, one option to this would be to have your groups identified. And in this rotation chart, there are 4 groups. And because I have 4 groups, I have 4 rotations. One rotation is my kidney table. The next rotation may be the writing center. The next rotation, I have game table and technology, but I split these 2 groups into A and B. And that means that in my red group, I have A and B groups. I have a red A group and a red B group. In my red group, I may have 3 people who are red A, and I may have 3 people who are red B. So when they get to this rotation, we know that the A people will go to the game table and the B people will go to technology. When they get to rotation 4, The A people will go to partner reading, and the B people will go to writing. And this just allows me to have a smaller amount of students in the center area. If we put a word work game in a center and we have all 6 students go to that game at the same time, we might see a little bit of chaos. But that becomes more manageable when we break that group in half and we give them 2 different activities to do. And we'll talk about on the next slide what this looks like in a rotation. So let's go to our very next slide. And this is a sample of a classroom. Before we go here, let's go back here. If I have 20 minutes in rotation 3, or we could just say 1. If I have 20 minutes in rotation 1, students are at the teacher table for 20 minutes. In the yellow group, yellow A is at partner reading for 10 minutes. Yellow group B is at writing for 10 minutes. When the 10-minute timer goes off, these 2 groups will switch. And the same for this blue group A and B. They spend 10 minutes in each area and then they switch. Green group gets a whole 20 minutes to do some kind of adaptive learning activity at their seat, something that meets them on their level. So that's how this would kind of work. And I'll show you what it looks like inside of a classroom. So this is my teacher table. These are my students' seats. This is my partner reading center and my writing center. This is my technology center and then a game table. I have these areas identified in my classroom that this is where the center takes place. We'll talk about what activities you could put here, but you should, it would be a great idea to designate areas in your room for where the center will occur. And we want to look at this like a counterclockwise event. So from my teacher table, the students who are here will leave my teacher table and go to adaptive learning, something to do with their seats. The students at their seats will now break off into an A-B group where there's half the group here and half the group here. These 2 groups will break off into the 2 groups that they were already in. Half is a technology, half is a game table. Once 10 minutes goes by and we switch, the only people that are going to move are the partner reading and the writing. These 2 will swap places and these 2 will swap places, game table and technology. Seat work, I'm calling it seat work, but really adaptive learning area, they do not move. And the teacher table will not move until that second bell, which is when the 20 minutes is up. And it doesn't have to be 20 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, it could be however long your school has designated, each rotation should be. And this will cut down on the traffic. We would never want these 2 areas to move through the adaptive learning seat work area. And no one in these areas, in these corners of our room should be near or come to the teacher table to get to their center. So a great way to set this up is to walk into your classroom and imagine the game 4 corners. In each corner of the room, you want to be able to put some center activity in one of those corners. And that just allows for us to do a clockwise rotation in the room where we can limit the movement and the traffic of people during this time. With the AB center, they are adjacent. They are right across from each other. So even when they switch, they don't have to walk across the room. With these 2 centers, even when they switch, they don't have to walk across the room. So making small group operational in your room is the key to having small group success. So just as a homework assignment, when you walk into your classroom, or if you're supporting someone in a small group and you walk into their room, imagine 4 corners in your head and say, where can I place centers in this room to where students can rotate clockwise without creating traffic and walking across the room during this time. So now that we have a chart, identify, our students know where to go, we have our centers in place, they know the rotation. One thing that could help make this just a little bit easier is to have a digital rotation chart, maybe even on your smart board. And they have these PowerPoints everywhere. This is one I created where you can click inside of this box. You can add students' names. So if they're absent, if you want to move their group for whatever reason, you want to put them in another group, you can always quickly edit and add in students. If a teacher may be out and you have extra kids in your classroom from another class, you can type their names in here as well so that it doesn't throw off your small group rotation. And then the chart is still here. We have teacher table, we have a writing area, we have a game area, we have a technology area. These are great places to start. And then as soon as you open this slide, there's a timer at the top that starts, so it keeps your rotation just on track. You won't have to set your phone alarm or remember to do anything. You just pull up this slide and it's available. And I would love to just to share this with you guys. So just let me know if you would like to receive this copy, and you'll be able to edit it to fit your needs. And if you wanted to change any one of these centers that are located here, you can just add the clip art and just make it big enough to fit this box. So let's talk about the teacher table.
Excuse me, Ms. Abram.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Sheila Evans, a kindergarten teacher. I like this rotation chart. May I leave my email? And if you send it to me, I'll send it to my team.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, if you put it in the chat, I'll go ahead and write it down.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and it will come as a PowerPoint or a Google slide, and
Yes,
they would just have to make a copy of it and just save it, under their name.
Okay.
And then they'll be able to edit the PowerPoint with their students' names and change out those pictures by just covering it up with a clip art.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem. Before I move on, I know that was a lot. Are there any questions or thoughts that you might want to just put in the chat box about the rotation part? The rotation and the just having a chart and places in your room to make that operational. This really is the and I'm going to just screenshot. This really is just the foundational piece to having small group success. Okay, so let's talk about what happens when we get to the teacher table. And this is our kidney table. Some things to note for the kidney table. It might be a great idea to always have your kidney table ready for a small group before the day even begins. That means that your kidney table, you have whiteboards, you have markers, you may even have some spelling cards or your activities already there, your decodable readers. Anything you may want to use during that table is present. Many times, and I know I've even been a victim to this as well, or a culprit of this as well, I may use my kidney table as my teacher desk. And then there's so much stuff on the kidney table that we can never really use it for small group, or if we do, it's just stuff everywhere. So one thought may be to clear off that kidney table and only put the things there that you know you're going to use during that small group instruction time. At the teacher table, we want to keep in mind the big 5 ideas of reading. And just with our centers in general, we want to make sure we have a center or an activity that meets each one of these categories. Phonemic awareness, and those are some of the activities that you pulled up from that website. Phonics, text comprehension. These are our skills, our standards that we like to hone in on. The text features and author's purpose, compare, contrast, all of those standards. We want to have some kind of skill activity that we have in that center to support those students as well. Time to be able to practice their fluency, their time on tongue, and even vocabulary. OpenCourt vocabulary, and that's if you're using OpenCourt as your curriculum. OpenCourt vocabulary is very intensive, and we have to hone in and provide opportunities for students to practice and be able to just hone in and go deep on those vocabulary words to set them up for success for their weekly assessments. If you are providing small group instruction for science or math, You would want to have rotations in place or activities in place that fit the domains of your math category. Order and operation, numbers base 10, measurement, geometry, number fluency. So we want our activities and our rotations to fit each one of those domains to where we can provide practice and skill work on a daily basis in those areas. If you wanted to have a science rotation, you would want to incorporate activities that match the 5E. Them being able to engage, explore, explain, extend, and evaluate their thinking after looking at certain concepts. For reading day, we're going to hone in on those big 5 components of reading. This code emphasis phonics-based small group lesson plan came straight from Letters. I forgot what page, but this is from Letters. And their recommendation is that the teacher table have these activities embedded in it. So for the teacher table, we're focusing on phonics, word work, and time on tongue. Students should be able to practice dictation for about 8 minutes or so, which is with sounds, words, and sentences. That means that they are writing, they are sounding out words, and then they're writing the words that they sound out. A great resource to use here are your spelling words. Connect to word meaning. Construct multiple meaning webs and phonic vocabulary. Locate words that mean or find words with similar meanings. Find the odd word out. Use 2 words in a sentence. And then time to read text. If you have students that are still struggling with phonological awareness, you would want to also add in time to segment and blend sounds. Your technology center or adaptive learning center, they could have review games. They could work on research projects, adaptive learning activities like Freckle, Myona, and Ingenuity. At your game table, they could do skill review, a game menu, board games, word sorts, and then at handwriting or seat work, independent handwriting practice, writing prompts, review or makeup work samples. If you are using OpenCourt has penmanship embedded in the program where they take about 2 to 3 letters a week and they focus on how students form those letters. Many times you will notice that students struggle with completing work, or they may be even slow at a spelling test because they're not forming their letters correctly. So there are videos that students can watch that will help them start and form their letters appropriately that they could also do during this time. So your teacher table could include a variety of word work, sound cards, ABC art, introducing board games that they may see at the game table, time on tongue using the codable readers, vocabulary and comprehension skill review, affix review, and that just means they're going over their suffix and their prefixes. They should be able to identify a suffix and a prefix and know its meaning. This is going to help students as they progress through grade levels, because when they get to 3rd grade and even the end of 2nd grade, they're going to see multisyllabic words with multiple syllables. And most of the time, those syllables include affixes, suffix or prefixes. So if they're able to identify these, they're going to be able to read more words. And then tap it, map it, graph it is also an activity that just supports phonological awareness. And we are going to look at some of these. So this is an example of our OpenCourt sound cards. I think these may be the first ones they ever made, because our cards look just a tiny bit different. You could start your small group rotation or your teacher table activity based on a phoneme or a letter card. So I know my students are struggling with long E. And so I have my long E card at the table, and I'm reviewing all of the ways that long E is spelled. So we review those ways that long E is spelled, and then we segment words that have long E in it. And then we dictate, we write words that have these long E patterns in them. I mean, you could do this with any sound spelling card. If you are not using OpenCore, if there are districts that are using any other program, most curriculum programs do come with sound spelling cards. For Wonders, the cards look like this. And inside this box, they had the sound spellings for long A. And then they also had a short A card. And we know that that sound spelling is just the letter A saying ah. But on this card, all of these sound spellings is how A is spelled when it says its name. So that's A-Y, A-I, A consonant E. And just students being able to recognize these spelling patterns, it makes a very big difference when they start blending and reading text. So the Tap It, Map It graphic. This is an activity that you could put in a plastic sleeve. And so basically you would give the students a word. The word is cat. They would tap out on their fingers, cat, at. And then they would take manipulatives, make this very similar to Elconian boxes. Maybe these circles, they would drag these circles into the box. At. And then they would graph it. And graph it means they write it. So now they're taking a marker and they're writing k, and they're writing the letter C. Ah, and they're writing the letter A. T, and they're writing the letter T. And zap it just means they erase it. We're gonna watch this quick video on why Tap It, Map It graphic is so beneficial.
Our goal is to provide students with exposure to all useful spelling patterns by the end of second grade. This allows students to be able to accurately decode with automaticity and proficiency. Let's take a look at a few examples of phoneme graphing connections. In the word bed, there are 3 phonemes, b, e, d, and represented by 3 graphings, b, e, and d. Sheep also has 3 phonemes, sh, e, p, represented by the following graphemes, sh, ee, and p. Let's take a look at a strategy on how you can use Tap It, Map It, Graph It. This is used to provide students with orthographic mapping of phonemes to graphemes. You need some materials. This includes the printed template that you see here in a sheet protector and a whiteboard marker. Teachers provide students with the word connected to the focus pattern of the week. Students repeat the word while tapping the phonemes. Then they map it with tiles or dots on the template. Finally, they write the grapheme associated with each of the mapping dots. Let's try it out. The first word is stick. Students repeat st, k, as they tap it with their fingers. Teacher asks students how many phonemes. Students then map it and put a dot for each phoneme they hear. Students then write the associated grapheme that connects to each phoneme. In this case, ST, I, and CK. After checking for accuracy, teacher instructs student to write whole word in the box on the right. The next word is stack. Tap it while they repeat the word st-a-k. Map it. Finally, they graph it. After teachers check for accuracy, students write the whole word. The lesson continues with the remaining words on the phonics focus list. This strategy would...
And when we look at the words they use, CK was probably one of their sound spelling cards. Maybe they were focused on that week. And so they're taking words that have that CK in it, and then they're tapping it, mapping it, graphing it, and just segmenting those sounds and building up their capacity to spell and dictate those words, write those words down. So I'm going to go back to my slideshow. We have just a few more slides. All right, the alphabet, and with that Tap It, Map It graphic, that is something we could possibly just draw with the Sharpie on a sheet of paper and make a few copies of it and put it in a clear plastic sleeve. They probably, I know they definitely have those also on Teachers Pay Teacher, but they probably have a free template of that online as well. The alphabet arc. The alphabet arc contains 5-minute activities that you can do during your small group instruction that will target letter identification, rapid letter naming, and sequencing activities. If you have students who have not benchmarked in letter name and letter sound, using an alphabet arc and alphabet arc activities could be beneficial. So I may have them point to the letter I. What sound does I make? Short sound, long sound, schwa sound. Let's pull I down to the middle. And then the I is going to be our medial sound. And I may say, pick out the letter that says P. So now they're looking for which letter says P. And they're putting P. I want you to put that P sound in the beginning as our initial sound. Let's blend those two letters, P, I, and now they have P. And then I might say, go find the letter that says G. And we're gonna make this letter our final sound in this word. And they'll pull the G down, and then we can blend that whole word, pig. And then they could read that word. That word is pig. So there are so many small mini activities that you could do with this. You could even have the letters scrambled, off to the side, and the students would have to put these letters in order on the arc itself. You can have them pull all the vowels down to the middle, and we could segment words. We could substitute words. The word was pig, and now I want you to take the beginning sound away and replace it with the sound that says ooh, and then they'll find the W, and now the new word is wig. So this alphabet art mat just helps us manipulate those letters. And it also, this is very useful for when students have concept of the alphabetic principle. That means that they know that the grapheme connects to the phoneme, the letter connects to a sound. If you have students who struggle in phonological awareness, they wouldn't, this activity wouldn't suit them yet. They would need activities that are just auditory with the sounds, like the tap it, map it, graph it. But after that activity, your students progress into knowing the alphabetic principle, and they understand that all these letters have sounds. And then now we're manipulating the sounds while using the letters, the graphemes. All right, another activity is called Full Circle, and that's just where they are substituting. So we start with the word run. We're going to take the R away and replace it with a B. What's our new word? Bun. We're going to take that final sound away and replace it with t. What's our new word? But. And this, they have many full circle activities. You can always use a spelling word and then just keep, substituting some letters out, swapping those letters out. Let's talk about how to make it curriculum based. What kind of centers can we use when talking about a skill? So this is, I want to review WH questions. So students, beforehand, I open up with, we talked about WH questions, and WH questions are who, what, when, where, why, and even how. And we want to do the skill of ask and answer questions such as who, what, when, where, why, how, to demonstrate our understanding of key details in the text. And in this activity, you actually won't even need necessarily text. I'm going to show you guys a picture, and we're going to go through some of these cards. These cards can be cut out. They're in a stack. The first card says, who is blowing out the candle on the cake? Where is the cake? How old is the boy? What are the boy's friends doing? And why is the boy happy? So let's just look at some of these pictures, some of these cards. So we're looking at this picture, and my question is, how old is the boy? So now we have students looking at this, and they are looking for details in this photo that will allow them to answer the question that's asked. So they're practicing this skill. And then, what questions do you have about this photo? On here, I can see that the boy is turning 6. because there are 6 candles on the cake. So we're making inferences. This is great with your ELL students because there's no text attached, but they're able to practice that skill of ask and answer questions. We're going to go to the next one. Game table. Here are some activities that you could possibly have at a game table. No matter what standard you are teaching, small lessons should be gamified. Take that skill and turn it into a game. Using games help differentiate instruction. Using games can provide explicit instruction, and using games can provide instant feedback. Oh, I wonder if I can make this just a little bigger. This is a bingo taco small group menu. I'm scared to click it. Is it gonna take me there? Let's see. I think it's gonna be bigger so we can actually see what's in it. At my game table, I may provide this menu sheet, or students may have a menu sheet, and I may have buckets that have skill review activities, phonic word sorts, card game, or like task cards, love task cards, or board games. And students are able to pick which one of those activities they want to do for the day. So it's Monday, and I get to pick one of these games out the bucket. I'm going to pick a game, and then I'm going to cross off skill review for the week. Then Tuesday, I pick another activity. It cannot be skill review because it could be skill review if I want to go straight across down this way and connect 4. Or if I want to go straight across this way and connect 4. The students want to make sure that they kind of touch multiple games, different games at that game table throughout that week. And then Friday, of course, could be a review, or it might be a day where you do progress monitoring. So let's make a taco. Pick one activity to complete from each section daily. Friday on here, it says it's free choice. So there are tons of different types of menus that you could just create for students to have an option of what they pick to do at your game table. Some board games that we can have at our game table are like sight word board games. I know there are Candyland sight word games. There's also sight word Uno out there floating around, and students would just start on this, roll a dice. I got 3, 1, 2, 3. The word is pig. Pig is not a sight word, that's a CVC word, but CVC board games. And there's plenty of these. This picture actually could just be printed and put in a plastic sleeve, and now it's a game. Let's talk about the Writing and Art Center. What's included in your Writing Center? Weekly writing prompts, writing stages with peer editors, handwriting practice, handwriting videos, graphic organizers that they turn into paragraphs possibly. And if you have students that are still at the beginning stages of writing, kindergarten, first grade, maybe even second grade, adding in art will help with their fine motor skills. And sometimes it helps when the students can draw a picture of a scene from the story they read that week. And then as the week progresses, add in sentences about that picture that they drew. One idea is that you have an area with these resources, and students can pick what kind of writing activity they do. Today, I want to make an ABC book or a book. Today, I want to write a story. Today, I want to make a list of my favorite things, or I want to make a grocery list or a to-do list. Today, I want to write a letter to someone. Today, I want to write a card to someone. Today, I want to, that's not text code, but I was going to say maybe I want to look at a daily fix it, and I want to fix sentences. But giving your students options, it provides them an area of endless activities that they kind of won't get bored of too quick, because they can always make a list, and now I want to make a card, write a card in the 10 minutes that they're there before they switch to another center. And then last but not least, partner reading. Some activities that could occur in partner reading is echo reading. And this activity is great for developing fluency and exposing struggling readers to grade level text. You could do this with those echo phones, or also you could just have students pair up with a more proficient reader, and the first reader would read a page, and then their partner would reread that same page. They could continue like this through that entire book, but honestly, when you're practicing fluency, 1 to 2 pages, 2 to 4 sentences is enough to practice fluency. With the decodable readers that we have with Open Court, we're able to tear out books, and those books are perfect to take into a partner reading center. And they can practice reading those books throughout the week. Retelling familiar stories, text coding. We're seeing this a lot being associated with closed reading. So annotating text, they could, use a studies weekly or something that they have had support in reading and go back and text code where they add parts, happy faces with the parts that made them happy, underline the main idea, circling all the nouns on the page, and then coaching each other while reading. Once you taught your students a few different reading strategies, teach them how to act as coaches to each other. You can teach them to listen quietly while their partner reads, and give them prompts like, look at this picture, or say the first sound if their partner is struggling to read a word, or look at that sound spelling. Okay, blend that whole word. You could teach them just how to coach each other through, or even time each other. Maybe they have fluency or automaticity sheets that just have words on it with the spelling pattern. They use a timer. I'm going to time you and go, and we're reading off those words on an automaticity sheet. They could be high frequency words. They could be spelling words. Make sure to provide students with some type of visual reminder to help them kind of recall possible prompts to give their partners. And I said, last but not least, again, vocabulary, engaging vocabulary centers. You could have centers where they match the words, where they find the different shades of meanings. And this activity is a rock and roll. So you roll the dice, you get on one, define the word. You pull a word, define it. Or you pull a word, draw it. Or you pull a word and you make a connection to what that word reminds you of. Or you can make a list of, or give an example of what this word isn't, or another example of what this word is. Use the word in a sentence. These things can be verbal with their partner so that they're engaging in oral language. They're engaging, they're talking about that vocabulary word. That's the most important thing we could do with vocabulary, is that we allow students to use it in speech. We allow them to talk. When we look at our course, our standards, we have a lot of reoccurring standards in the beginning of our grade levels, and it talks about allowing students to engage in conversations and discussions. So this center would satisfy many standards. They could have a word, and this is something you could do at your teacher table, where you pull a word, and then, for example, the word is Halloween. What things do we do on Halloween? We trick or treat, we eat candy, we dress up. What type of costumes could we wear on Halloween? What kind of things do we eat during Halloween? What kind of decorations do you see during Halloween? And now they're picking out all these words that we associate with Halloween, and it just builds their vocabulary and just deepens the meaning of whatever word you put in the center. Last but not least, again, technology. Here are some technology adaptive learning. Is computer-based or online educational systems that modify the presentation of materials in response to student performance. And once again, those are 3 that you could use. And then there are also some virtual game resources like wordwall.net. And we have 1 minute, so I'm going to click it, but this is definitely the last slide. So many resources out here. But these are, they could go to their technology center, pull up their computer, or even if you still have desktops, and they could just pick one of these activities, and it's just a game that's based on phonics. And that way the students don't have to log in, they don't have to use badges, but these are some activities that students could do that relate to reading. And last but not least, be sure to use timers. The best way to be successful is to hold yourself accountable with starting and ending on time. YouTube has awesome timers. I used a few of those YouTube timers today. They have music in the background, and you can find a timer for any amount of time, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20. And that's all. Thank you guys so much for attending. Please enjoy these free resources. I think I put some resources on this link, so I'm going to actually try to copy this and I'll put it in the box for you guys. Okay, copy and pasting that in the chat box. And I want to make sure I'm sending this to everyone. And then I'm going to come back and look at this message because I did not get to see it, and paste. All right, and I will put the sign-in link back at the bottom.